A small nursery room was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and fills you with dread. A premature newborn had just entered the world, and its fragile body lay still, without a breath of life. The doctors worked frantically, their hands moving quickly in a desperate attempt to revive the tiny form. Time felt like it was stretching, each second a drawn-out eternity. But finally, against all odds, the baby was resuscitated, and the parents, who had been holding their breath, praying for a miracle, exhaled in relief. However, that relief was fleeting. Shortly after, the baby was struck by a series of devastating health complications. Despite surviving the initial trauma, the child was now left with a paralyzed side, unable to move or respond. The joy of life had been replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread, as the parents watched helplessly. The doctors had no answers for them, no solutions to offer. The young couple, exhausted and defeated, spent months traveling between specialists, each appointment leaving them more disillusioned than the last. They had gone from optimistic parents full of dreams about their child's future, to weary souls trapped in a fog of uncertainty. Their hope was slowly being crushed by the heavy weight of despair, and they could see no way out. One afternoon, after weeks of trying and failing, they met with a neurologist. He was a calm man, with a steady gaze and an air of quiet authority. As he listened to their story, the parents' voices trembled with frustration, recounting how they had tried everything and yet nothing seemed to help. The doctor, unfazed, remained silent for a moment. Then, with an unexpected calmness, he said, "Bring a dog into your home." The words hung in the air, and for a moment the parents were silent, unsure if they had heard him correctly. "A dog," the father repeated, his voice filled with disbelief. "We can barely keep up with what's going on now. How could a dog possibly help our child?" His eyes were full of doubt, and his frustration was palpable. But the doctor, with a certainty that left no room for argument, responded, "This is not just a suggestion. It is part of the treatment. A chow chow or a Labrador. Trust me." There was something in his voice, something so resolute, that the parents couldn't dismiss it. Though hesitant, they agreed. Desperation drove them to consider even the most improbable options. They went on to adopt a small, soft black chow chow puppy, whom they named Bear. The girls were thrilled, their laughter filling the house as they played with their new pet. But Bear, however, showed no interest in them. It ignored the excitement of the children, and instead, it walked slowly toward the baby's crib. The parents watched, their hearts filled with confusion and curiosity. The puppy, despite its small size and playful demeanor, seemed to have a singular focus on the child. What happened next left them in stunned silence. Bear climbed carefully onto the baby's bed, its movements cautious, almost reverent. The puppy gingerly approached the side of the baby that was paralyzed. Without hesitation, Bear began to nibble and gently lick the lifeless side, as if trying to bring it to life. The parents, initially frozen in shock, hesitated, unsure if they should intervene or let the strange moment unfold. But the father, despite his concern, was driven by an overwhelming sense of curiosity. He watched, unable to tear his eyes away from Bear's actions. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, torn between his fear of doing the wrong thing and the odd sense that something important was happening. Days turned into weeks, and Bear's behavior didn't change. It remained utterly fixated on the paralyzed side of the baby, and though the parents could not understand it, they couldn't deny the odd sense that the puppy knew exactly what it was doing. Every time Bear approached, it would continue to carefully tend to the baby with its snout, gently pressing against the child's immobile side, as if trying to coax it back into movement. The parents were no longer as quick to stop the dog. They watched, a mix of confusion, wonder, and a touch of fear filling their hearts. One day, a therapist arrived to assist with the child's physical therapy. As she walked into the room, she saw Bear tending to the baby in its usual way. Her steps faltered as she stopped in her tracks, her eyes wide in astonishment. The dog, without any prompting, was mimicking the very techniques she had been using in her sessions. Bear gently massaged the child with its nose and paws, the rhythm smooth and consistent, as though the puppy had been taught the movements. The therapist, her voice barely a whisper, said, "I've never seen anything like this before." She stood frozen, not knowing how to react. "I can't compete with what this dog is doing," she admitted, her voice filled with awe. She left, acknowledging that Bear's natural instincts were far more effective than any human care could provide. Weeks passed, and small changes began to show. The baby's limbs, once completely limp, began to twitch ever so slightly. On the morning of the child's first birthday, something miraculous happened. The baby, with shaky legs and unsteady movements, pulled itself up on its feet. It wobbled but stood there, determination shining in its eyes. The parents, who had watched helplessly for so long, burst into tears. Their joy was indescribable. Bear, sensing the excitement, barked happily, its tail wagging with enthusiasm. The house, once filled with the weight of uncertainty, was now alive with celebration. When the neurologist saw the child, who had been paralyzed and was now standing, enter his office, he could hardly believe his eyes. A smile crept across his face as he looked at the parents. "Dogs heal in ways we can't explain," he said softly, almost to himself. For the parents, the experience was nothing short of a miracle. They had been given hope in the most unexpected form, a small black puppy named Bear. They had witnessed something truly extraordinary, something beyond medical explanation. The love and care that Bear had given their child had led to a recovery they had thought impossible. It wasn't just the treatment they had hoped for. It was a miracle born from an unlikely, yet profound connection between a child and an animal. And as they watched their child grow stronger each day, the parents realized that sometimes the most powerful healers come in the most unexpected forms. They had learned to never underestimate the mysterious and inexplicable ways in which love and care could make all the difference in the world.